Hey adventurers, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm really excited because this is our very first ever episode and I've prepared something really special for you. I'm going to share an excerpt from the first chapter of my book, AdVenturous, with you. It's my personal story, it's my vision and my mission, it's why we're doing what we're doing here today, and I cannot wait to dive right in with you. My journey here has been an inner journey of the self and of my own growth and going into some of the darkest places within me to face things that I had been running from a really long time. But what I will say is underneath all of the fears and all of the ways I blocked myself and stayed hidden, I always had these abilities within me. I made a choice, and over time I learned how to open up, align to the universe and my divine purpose. I began to do the inner work and stayed with it. The universe responded in kind by always taking care of me. I was always led to the right people along the journey. I've always been guided toward those who would teach me, who would guide me, who would protect me, support me, provide for me, and believe in me. I screwed up a lot along the way. The journey was definitely not an easy one. The only thing I've consistently done right was recognize when I have been given a chance and an opportunity and something that was special and run like hell with it. This journey so far for me has been messy and weird. It's sometimes been bad and hard. Things happened along the way many times. I almost quit several times, and people I thought were my friends and allies turned out to be anything but. But it has also been one of the greatest adventures of my life so far, and it is just getting started. I'm doing this podcast here, AdVenturous, not just to connect with others, but because I don't want you to quit. If you're an entrepreneur or a startup founder, or you're just doing a really hard thing in the world that you don't feel like you belong in, I want you to keep going and not feel so alone. And for those of you who are trying to create a business and life of purpose and impact, this is as much about spiritual guidance as well as business guidance. I can't advise every entrepreneur in the world. Believe me, I would if I could. I didn't graduate with fancy connections. I graduated with student loan debt. I didn't have anyone hand me anything. So maybe you feel like a square peg in a round hole. And if this is the case, you're probably not willing to settle for the status quo either, no matter what anybody says. You refuse to do what you're supposed to do with your life and your career, so have I, and you're not willing to allow things to just be the way they are because they're too hard to change, or it's because of the way that they've always been. You're not interested in being another human being on this earth, breathing oxygen, taking up space, and just living a basic and status quo life. And if that's how you feel, I get you. So for me, there's a big part of me that is still a kid. I am often skipping around in pink with glitter and notebooks. I have a Lisa Frank unicorn folder in my purse that's often full of investment documents. And I am a lover of literature. My college major was journalism, and I wanted to be a writer. And one of my favorite books of all time is Alice in Wonderland. And I often think about believing in 1,000 outlandish things before breakfast and how all the best people are absolutely mad, truly bonkers. To this day, people still talk about how crazy that book and its author, Lewis Carroll, was. But I think it's one of my favorites because Alice in Wonderland gives all of us permission to imagine and believe in 1,000 impossible things, and maybe all before breakfast. Who knows? I personally was born in Manila, Philippines, and I moved here to the United States when I was very young. My grandfather was a commander of the United States Navy. He was a fighter pilot. And he ran it from Subic Bay in the Philippines, which used to be occupied by the U.S. My dad's family owned sugar plantations, multi-generations, and were some of the largest landowners across the Philippines and Indonesia. And we moved for many reasons. Amongst others, when I was born, there was like a political uprising going on. Riots, gunshots in the street outside the hospital, all of that. I'm told lights and generators were going down in the operating room. The power was being cut. And a few months later, there was even an attempted kidnapping. And my mom decided enough was enough and we had to flee. So we arrived here in the United States with nothing but 2 suitcases. My dad had never been to the U.S. before, but of course he'd heard all about it since he was a young boy, the American dream. And that's definitely what they were searching for. So my dad worked at Radio Shack. My mom had a part-time job at a jewelry store. She often had to work multiple jobs in order to keep the family together. My mother moved heaven and earth and got us into a small town in Camas, Washington. And it was right across the street from my grandparents. So looking back now, I know that what she did was manifest a new home, better schools, and subsequently a new and better life for us. So this was probably the best thing she could have ever done. She saved us from what could have been a very different path. I like to describe my upbringing in Camas like Mayberry from the Andy Griffith Show. I don't know if you remember that show. I certainly don't, but I've seen reruns. It was a small mill town, about 3,000 people when I moved there at the gorgeous, gorgeous, majestic Columbia River Gorge. And it was just this beautiful and idyllic place to grow up. In Camas, we attended really well-funded schools, and we just got to be kids. My grandmother made us pancakes in the morning. We spent weekends and summers running around, playing in the forests and the meadows, swimming in lakes and rivers, and riding our bikes. I remember I basically lived in overall shorts and a wet swimsuit. Even though my mom was often working and I didn't get to have a lot of the things that the other kids had, I did get to participate in school activities, have friends. I got to live a very relatively normal life, and for that, I am so extremely grateful. So to this day, I'm very close to my family. We talk on the phone with each other weekly. We text each other memes. We have family holidays. We tease my mom relentlessly. We play practical jokes, laugh so hard, tears roll down our faces. I think it's a family trait. The dumber the joke, the more likely I am to cry laughing. And we genuinely enjoy one another. And I just feel very, very fortunate. So fortunate. My mother is a hero through and through, and life could have gone a very, very different direction for us. So I have always been an entrepreneur, and ever since I was a little girl. And my first company I can remember was I was selling rubber bands in my neighborhood. And I even had franchisees, and they covered territories where I wasn't allowed to cross the street. We sold them for a penny each or a bag for $1. And I remember making what felt like a big pile of lots of money. And we took it to the mini mart up the street to buy candy, which felt like a shopping spree. And we took our candy haul to the top of my treehouse, covered the floor, made snow angels in it, and then ate it all. I remember we laid there with aching stomachs, and it just dawned on me that we had just eaten all the profits and didn't have any more rubber bands. So that was the end of the rubber band venture, and it was my very first lesson in business. When I was in high school, I was on the mock trial team. I remember I wanted to be cast as an attorney because the attorneys were the stars. But instead, I was cast as a witness. And I was really upset because I felt like witness was a basic role and I wanted to be a star. But it was explained to me that they'd made me an expert witness who was a toxicologist because this testimony was important enough to make or break the case. And it was a very technical role, and they thought I was smart enough to do it. Unknowingly, they'd use the magic trigger word that would unlock my drive, which was smart enough. So I decided right then and there I was going to show everyone just how smart I really was. I wasn't going to be just smart enough to do the role. I was going to win the whole thing. So I studied this affidavit like crazy, and I went one step further, and I also learned how to compute the Widmark formula freehand, which is an algorithm that helps determine what someone's blood alcohol level was several hours ago. So it's pretty complicated, and it has to take into account lots of different factors like the type of alcohol consumed and body composition and all that stuff. And my testimony was always last. And when I would calculate the blood alcohol level of the defendant from the stand, and the jury, who were judges, couldn't stump me, I would win every single verdict and win every single case for my team. My mock trial team won the state championship. I won the title. And I remember being so proud because it wasn't because I was a nice girl or cute or whatever. I won it because I was smart. And so from that point, achieving almost became like an addiction for me. It was rooted in a pretty dark place for me for a while, proving I was good enough, I was worthy, I was smart enough to all those who I had perceived had abandoned me or rejected me in the past. And it would honestly take me a lot of years to overcome some of this darkness. And looking back, I now see this former version of myself was ambitious because of the darkness. And I was running from something, and I was hiding from something, and I was using achievements to cover up and run from these just deep fears that I had. So, one of the things I learned and one of the things I know to be true now is the people that we are as human beings with careers and whatever, we have many facets and layers, and we have light and dark sides. And the dark side of success, drive, and ambition is often something that is driven from our ego. Something deep inside of us was hurt, traumatized, scared. And there's still something in me that wants to prove something to the world. I have this deep, shadowy piece that sometimes I don't even fully understand that wants to prove someone wrong, show the world they were wrong about me. And sometimes I do these things because I want to see if I can. And I want to show everyone what I am capable of. And I think this is very normal for all of us, especially many of the entrepreneurs I know today. And there's a deep and shadowy part of us all that craves recognition and acknowledgement. We want to be seen. And I've learned over time that this is where ambition is coming from a lot. We can watch movies about people's meteoric rises to success. And these people have drive and they have ambition and something else within them that is driving them to succeed. And it's often this dark stuff, often unresolved issues, often from our past. And these can become our demise. Never is there ever portrayed stories of these people going to a place of steadiness with them, an inner refuge inside, which is where the stillness is. And this is our inner truth. And this is where God speaks to us, and this is where it works. And this stillness is where we are often so afraid to go. But when we can learn what's here and we can go to that inner peace and we can create from this source that's so much more powerful than darkness, we can really make amazing things happen in the world. Entrepreneurship is a spiritual act of creation, and tapping into the source of that within us gives us a power greater than shallow, superficial ambition ever will. It's a power that we create from true love. And we can learn from the darkness and the fall of others, but we can also learn from the rise, because this will prepare us for our own darkness and our own inevitable falls as we navigate these twisting journeys and our own inevitable rise when we find our way back to true love and the source of creation that is within all of us. I believe the light side is just as big and real and true as the dark. When I was very young, before I even knew that business was a thing, I wanted to work in government or a nonprofit. I think a lot of people did, because I wanted to create change and I wanted to help the world. I remember clearly the moment it dawned on me that government wouldn't change the world, and the way to change the world was through business. I immediately lost all interest in government and in politics and in any of that stuff, and I became very, very interested in business. So the light side of me wholly believes to the core of my being that business in general and entrepreneurship in particular can change the world. And this is also what gets me up and out of bed each day. I decided a long time ago that I wanted to be both successful and impactful. And once I made that decision, I have never wavered from it. But for a long time, it really felt silly and it felt like an impossible dream or this stupid secret, in a way that only I knew. I know for certain I'm not one of those people who can work a job that doesn't light me up and ignite a passion. I just can't do it. My heart has to be in alignment with my actions in the world. Otherwise, I really just don't function. So for that reason, I thrive on entrepreneurs and inventors. They're like fuel and like oxygen to me. And I know for a fact that I'll wither without them. And a little piece of me actually dies when I'm not around entrepreneurs and innovators. So I don't really care if your passion is model trains or quantum computing or designer dog leashes or gene therapy. If you have a passion about something and you are doing something about it, I like you. So I believe that we need more people like you, like us, to be successful in business. I want you to be in these places of influence and wealth so you can make these amazing real changes actually happen in the world. I want you to be your happiest, your most empowered, purpose-driven, and truest self while you do it, because if people like you rise to positions where you have real power, real authority, and real wealth, you live this life of impact, of fulfillment, and happiness, and you're giving back to the world from those taking it away from those who we know aren't good stewards of our planet, our health, and our lifestyles and our future. Amazing things will happen. So maybe we wouldn't always see eye to eye on things, but at least we know we are in power for the right reasons. And that is the dream that I want to create. And that's what I would honestly fight for until my very last breath. So I want everyone's wallets, yours, mine, everyone who listens to this, to be, stuffed full of cash and so much success in your life that you're investing in the next generation in ways that will keep the world a better place and make a world we actually want to live in. So for you, my adventurers, my tribe, to feel happier, we're more at peace, we're more aligned, then work doesn't have to feel like work, and we just get to create and we get to flow on to our next creation. Life is like a cycle of connection and creation, just over and over again. So by doing this podcast for me, I hope to write a bigger story for the world, a story where the good guys win, and that good guy or gal gets to be you. And the best part is you'll get to do it your way. The universe gets to be your co-founder. Together, we can build a business and a life beyond your wildest dreams. And trust me, if I did it, you can do it too.